Alright, everyone, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, of course, a part of the Full Press Coverage Network. What is going on? It is Alec and Mason here recording today, recapping all things Saints this past week, including the victory in Washington, 33-22, which was an interesting game for sure. It set a lot of storylines for this week. More importantly, the Saints get to the bye week 3-2, which is always a positive. To have a record above 500 heading to the bye, so we'll discuss this Washington game and kind of how we feel about this team at the bye week currently. But more importantly, before we get to any of that, Mason, how are you doing today, sir? And super happy to have you on today.
Not too bad, man. Happy to be back on. How about you?
We're chilling. We're chilling. We're doing good right now. We're chilling. It was a good week of football, a great weekend of college football and pro football.
Absolutely.
So I'm just excited to recap this game. I guess before we get into the specifics, Mason, if you, what were some of your general takeaways or concerns about this Saints team after beating Washington last Sunday?
First and foremost, I just want to throw this out there. I think Sean Payton listens to Saints Twitter. I really do. Because everyone's been talking about him letting Jameis throw that ball down the field. Because guess what? Every time he goes to sling it, it usually ends up in a touchdown. As we saw with that 72-yard bomb to Deontay early in that Washington game. So it's definitely good to see after this week that Sean is starting to trust Jameis a little bit more. Hopefully we unlock some more of this offense's potential once we get our key players back. But one of the concerns I have, it's been a long time concern, I think, for a lot of Saints fans too. Man, what is Andrews Pete doing out there? He's in the words of Russell Westbrook, he's just running around. He's just running around out there.
It's always a great question when it comes to what Andrews Pete is doing. Me personally, I'm okay with this play. I know the guard market kind of really isn't what it is or what you would like it to be, but I understand people are mad that we overpaid it for Andrews Pete just because he's comfortable in the system and plays at a average to above average level at times. He's always a fun talking point, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, if you really dive deep into that interception that Jameis threw early on, Andrews Pete just about crushed Jameis's foot. I'm surprised he didn't get injured somehow. I mean, that's a big man leaning on you like that.
Bubble butt.
You know? Yeah. And, I mean, the best takeaway I have from that is, happy Jameis didn't get injured.
Right. I mean, speaking of Jameis, let's dive into some of Jameis Winston's numbers. 15 of 30 for 279 average, 9.3 yards per throw, 4 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception. And if you look at the numbers here, and there's 2 sets of numbers I want to look at and kind of pick apart here. Jameis Winston, through his first 5 starts the last couple of years in Tampa. Excuse me, and then Breeze's last 2 years in this offense through the first 5 games. The numbers are very, they're compelling. It kind of makes me think Sean Payton is doing wonders here with Jameis Winston. Statistically, Breeze-wise, numbers are almost identical across the board. The only difference is Jameis has thrown more touchdowns in this 5-game span. He's thrown 3 more touchdowns than Breeze has, 10 to 13, I believe, is what it is. In Washington, the game is a perfect example of, you have the highs and the lows with Jameis. You had the big bomb to Deontay Harris, which was fun and all, but then you had the Hail Mary throw to Marquez Callaway right before the half. But then you had, there was a streak in that game where he went 8 incompletions in a row, something like that, and it's certainly a ride with Jameis Winston. I feel a lot more confident. I think this was a good game for Jameis, despite, only completing 50% of his passes. And, I mean, look, this is an experiment. We all knew it was going to be a ride, for sure. But, I mean, look, he's a guy who, once he gets more acquitted in this offense, and, you get Michael Thomas, you get Traquan Smith, you get Nick Vanant, the tight end, and then you get the lineman back McCoy and Armstead. I think Jameis will be just fine in this offense and going forward after the bye week. Let me ask you, Mason, through 5 games of Jameis Winston, we see some good, we see some bad. What's kind of your what are some of your general thoughts on Winston's performance so far as we enter the bye week?
I think he's performed as well as he possibly can at this point in time, with all these key injuries. Something you talked about was the touchdown to interception ratio this year. You realize he's tied right now with Justin Herbert, who, a lot of analysts and, people in the football community are basically claiming to be, a top 5 quarterback. So it's not bad company.
He's in the MVP talk.
Yeah, it's certainly not bad company to be in. I do think we're going to see more once we get, like you mentioned, Vanette, Thomas, Traquan Smith, McCoy and Armstead back. I think that's going to be a big upgrade to a lot of the pieces he's working with right now. So, I think Jameis is certainly on the path to having a really solid season. And, once again, I'm not asking Jameis to go out there and play hero ball. This defense is good enough to keep us in games as long as we don't turn the ball over. We have the opportunity to go over their heads, with the vertical threat, which we haven't had. And if we can just limit turnovers and, Andrews Pete limits getting blown up at the line, I think this is going to be a very strong team.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. It's just really kind of crazy to think, here's some numbers from Winston so far. He has a 108.1 QB rating, career high. 12 touchdowns to 3 interception ratio, career high. Averaging 2.4 touchdown passes per game, career high. And a fun stat here, which I didn't know existed, but I feel like with the Saints we always find these stats that nobody knows about. The highest touchdown per pass attempt percentage this season, Jameis Winston at 10.3%, followed by Pat Mahomes at 8.2%. So, here's the thing. I think, I think Winston can be the guy for this team, and I'm very much a fan of Jameis Winston going forward. Just like we mentioned, it's about getting guys who are injured and banged up healthy, and they can contribute to this offense when need be. And I think, in the Washington game, you saw some guys step up. Marquez Callaway being one of them. He caught the big Hail Mary, but then he also caught the I would call it the game clinching touchdown before the Alvin Kamara one at the end, when Sean Payton called a beautiful play, drew it up where he basically went up and around, kind of a natural rub route, and was wide open for a touchdown. I think this offense, it's just very confusing. We see some good, we see some bad, but again, first-year quarterback in this system, which, the guy before him ran it for 15 years. You expect there to be bumps and bruises along the road, for sure. And I think we both agree that this offense runs through Alvin Kamara. He had himself quite a day. 2 touchdowns, 71 yards on the ground, along with 51 through the air. How important is it to have a back like AK, in your opinion, Mason, that can carry an offense through the air and through the ground?
Well, in previous years, I think it was different, but I think the way the NFL is going forward now with how much offenses air it out, I think it's crucial to have a back like Alvin Kamara, he kind of plays that hybrid role where, you can line him up out wide, you can, dump off to him, while still, he's a shifty back who can still break some tackles. He's not the biggest guy, but, like you mentioned, like he can carry the offense on the ground and through the air. There's not a whole lot of running backs I can really compare him to in the league who do that. You've got Eckler out there in Los Angeles, Christian McCaffrey whenever he gets rid of that injury bug. And maybe
Zeke.
Najee Harris. Yeah, Zeke too. Zeke when he came into the league was more of a power back, but I think he's definitely grown. He's definitely taken strides to get better, as a wideout as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's crucial, especially in the offense that Sean Payton runs. It's crucial to have a player like Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And now let's talk about this defense here for a little bit. You mentioned earlier this is a defense that can carry this team at times, and I mean look, this Washington team, I think their identity is shifted more to an offensive state once the defense was struggling, so far through the entire season. They had weapons, Antonio Gibson, their receiving back J.D. McKissick. They got Curtis Samuel back for this game. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, we know what he can do. But this defense, man, by the numbers here, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and kind of for the most part held Washington, they contained the Washington football team when they needed to. And it's kind of crazy because I think Baldy's breakdowns, he had one play in particular where the 3 rookies are out there making an impact. It was Pete Warner, Peyton Turner, and then Paulson and Debo. And it's just kind of crazy because I think we as fans, myself included, and maybe you felt the same way, we all questioned this draft class as a whole. But now it seems like you're getting an immediate impact player at all 3 levels, defensive line, linebacker, and corner. So it's just kind of crazy, isn't it, to see that these 3 rookies are coming in and contributing right away.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The only pick I really questioned out of this draft class, and it was more so it kind of caught me off guard when I heard that first rounder, Peyton Turner, D-end out of Houston. I was more so I'd watched a little bit of his film out of college beforehand, but wasn't necessarily who I was expecting at the pick. But, he seems like a good kid. His tape, he's got good tape from Houston. He really does. And you're seeing that tape reflect now onto the field in the pros. And he's an impact player. And, Pete Werner has all the ability and all the talent to become a top linebacker in this league. I mean, he's great in coverage. He can lay some hits. And I mean, if Pete Werner keeps playing like this, I don't know if Quan gets his job back.
Right.
But if the Saints are ever feeling frisky and want to play a 4-3, I would not mind having DeMario, Pete Werner, and Quan as my linebackers, at that second level. Paulson Adebo, he has done nothing but show me and prove me wrong this year and show me how good he is. He definitely had some hiccups, against the Giants. But, I mean, since then, and I mean, overall this whole season, he's played really, really well. And you usually don't see rookie corners perform like that, right off the bat. So it's definitely encouraging to see. And I mean, I think if these rookies keep up the pace and continue on this path, I mean, we could be comparing this draft class to the 2017 draft class one day.
Yeah, and I think, I believe if I'm right, the last corner to come in immediately and start for us, it worked out pretty well. That being Marshawn Lattimore, who, he had himself a day out there against Washington, and in particular one of the better receivers in the NFL, Terry McLaurin. And I'm not gonna lie, if you look at Lattimore's career as a whole, he's been known to struggle with smaller, shiftier guys like DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley. So I expected him to struggle against Terry McLaurin Sunday. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little worried about this matchup, but damn, he proved me wrong. I'm sure a lot of other people wrong as well. Had himself a day locking down McLaurin. He seems to be worth just about every penny of that contract, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday, but I had mentioned that he is worth every penny, word for word, every penny of that deal.
Yep.
But Marshawn Lattimore is, man, he is playing at a different level right now, and I just love to see that when players get their deals, they exceed these expectations. It's a great thing to see because a lot of times a player gets a fat check and kind of winds down, kind of relaxes, and kind of gets complacent, But Marshawn Lattimore is playing at an all-pro level right now. While at the same time, I don't think people realize he's playing with one hand. He still has a cast, he is, and the fact that he was able to shut down, Washington as well as he's been playing lockdown all year. I think it's a true testament to just how good he is. And hopefully he keeps this up. At the end of the year, we'll be seeing him, on the first team All-Pro. Because I think right now he's playing and just might be the best corner in the league.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right on that. I mean, to me, when I go back and watch the film in its entirety from week 1 to now, I don't think there's no better corner in the NFL right now playing at the level Marshawn Lattimore is playing at. I'm trying to find his numbers from the Washington game. Give me just 1 second here, and I'll read them out to you. Okay, here we go. So Marshawn Lattimore's numbers against Washington in coverage against Terry McLaurin 1-on-1. This is from Pro Football Focus. He was the top-graded Saints defender at 85.4. He was targeted 9 times, allowed 2 catches for 31 yards. 6 pass breakups, and a 41.4 passer rating when targeted. Against obviously one of the best young receivers in the NFL right now, in my opinion. And sheesh, I don't know what else to say about Marshawn Lattimore. We said it before. It seems like every time a major Saint gets paid, that next season they kind of break out. 2019, it was Michael Thomas. Last year it was Alvin Kamara, and this year it looks like through 4 games it might be Marshawn Lattimore. And I think another guy we need to mention who had himself quite a day is a guy who maybe he got robbed of some honors this week.
I hope you're talking about who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page here. It's got to be Blake Gilligan, the punter. I mean,
oh man,
how do you punt 5 times, and average out 53 yards, 53.6 yards per punt, and have 3 of them inside the 20? I just don't know how you do that. I see why the Saints stashed Gilligan last year. I really do, because I think this guy's a weapon. Especially with an offense that's still trying to figure out their identity, and then you have a kicking game that really isn't all that reliable. The best thing you can do is pin them inside the 5, rely on your defense to get you through with it, and then see what your offense and kicking game can do from that. But Gilligan, man, he's special. he's been on point all year with these punts, but Washington was like a showcase game, and I was damn impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever really witnessed like directional punting live. The way he was pinpointing those balls, and it was no fluke. Like he was doing this. I mean, it's an art, being able to pin teams down like that, and just the way he was placing those punts was just, special teams doesn't get a whole lot of love. Myself, I love Pat McAfee. I was a big fan. Yeah. So I love to pay attention to, the kickers, punters, and special teams unit as a whole. And man, Gilligan, that was a maestro. That was a game. That was arguably the best punting performance I've ever seen before, and that's saying something. So major props to him. And like you said, I am ecstatic that the Saints were able to stash him last year. And it's not too bad when you have such a great punter in Morstead leave, and you get to fill it with Gilligan, a player like him.
Right, it's just crazy. But again, I am very glad the Saints did stash him last year. Um, he has truly been a gem, another undrafted gem. The Saints they tend to excel at things like this and make all of us look like fools talking about them. Um, so let me ask you this before we move on here, Mason. Any other thoughts from the Washington game that stood out to you?
I wouldn't say anything really stood out, but definitely happy to be sitting at 3-2 going into the bye. That yes. I will say.
Yes, and that leads us into our next topic here. Of course, the Saints are going to be on a bye this week, and they will get Seattle the week after that without Russell Wilson, of course. So, I mean, to me, Mason, this is big for your team, a team that is still trying to figure themselves out offensively. To be at 3-2 going into an early bye week, which you really need to get some of these guys healthy and ready to go. I'm ecstatic about this bye week coming. It came at the right time for this team, I think. How do you feel about this team at 3-2 right now?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Really, really happy that we have an early bye week this year because I think the team desperately needs it. We really can't risk any more injury at this point. The roster is getting a little thin. So, and I think after this bye week, we're going to have, maybe not all the keys back, but we'll definitely get some players back and get some healthy bodies back on the field. So, I think this team being 3-2 going into the bye is strong. And I mean, if you really look at it, when have the Saints ever started off really good at the beginning of the season? They've never really started off hot.
Right. September was kind of our Achilles heel for a long time. I feel like so. Again, as you mentioned, hopefully it looks like we might get guys like Traquan Smith back. Maybe Will Lutz a week after the bye week. I know obviously everybody's waiting for the big news on Michael Thomas. We'll wait and see what happens there going into next week. So to be at 3-2 right now in the NFC South, where I mean, as great as Tampa has looked, I'm not entirely sold on Tampa yet. You go back and look at. There's two things about Tampa that I really don't like about them. And one is the secondary. Obviously, it's a secondary that I think can be attacked. And go back and look at that Rams game. Another thing I'll tell you is go back and watch that New England game against the Patriots. And people are going, oh, well, why did New England, how are they able to hold Tampa, like the way they did? Go back and watch the film on that game. The thing the Patriots did, and Bill Belichick is great at doing this because he takes away whatever you're good at offensively. He takes it away from you. The Patriots, what they did, they took the deep ball. They took the underneath in the middle and the intermediate passing game away from the Patriots, or the Bucs, I mean. And they try to make Tom beat him with the deep ball. And obviously, aging Brady at 44 now? 45? He can only hit so many deep balls accurately. And his receivers aren't really, outside of AB, they're not speed guys. They're big-bodied, over-the-middle guys, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So, Tampa can be beat. There's a blueprint to beat Tampa. I think the Saints have the defense to do that. So, we will wait and see. I think their first game is, Halloween, if I'm right?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yeah, I think it's Halloween at the end of the month. So, Tampa can be beat. I think this division is not completely over with. Like, everybody wants to write off the Saints. Carolina also is a very competitive team, I think. So, we'll see what happens with them there. But I'm still very confident this team can make the playoff. It's funny, because about 2 weeks ago, I was ready to write off this team as we're not making the playoffs. Let's just, see what happens in the offseason, go from there. I was wrong. Very wrong. So, I own up to that. So, we will wait and see how this bye week goes. We'll get some key guys back, hopefully. And I think that just about covers it, Mason. I think we just wrapped it all up beautifully with the bow on top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any last words, thoughts, notes on this Saints team that you want to give out to the people?
Hey, be ready. Be ready after the bye week because that's when it starts. That's when the run will start. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, this is going to be a fun week. And really quickly, one more note. Was it last year? We were at 3-2, entered the bye week, and then we went on like a 7-8 game winning streak.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, and it just would not shock me this team got healthy and hot at the right time to do the very same thing. Mason, as always, it's a pleasure, good sir. I think that was great. And make sure you guys listen on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast at. Leave us a 5-star review. And later this week, we will have a bye week recap coming all about the Saints going to the bye week. Hopefully by then we'll have some news on some key guys coming back. We'll wait and see how that goes. But yeah, that'll come out later this week. You guys have been listening to the Full Press Saints podcast. We're signing off here, and we'll see you guys soon.